Hey, this is Roland from Eplan and Rittal. We're here in Canada, and we often have this question about can we turn around the door on a TS8 to have the handle on the opposite side, on the right-hand side? And yes, you can. It's really just flip the door around. Now, technically, when you insert a panel, and I'm just going to pick one enclosure like this, the 8086 500, place it. And you may actually know when you place a Rittal panel like this, you can place them nicely one next to each other. This is not my intention. My intention for the moment is to actually show you the lines of accessories. In this case here, when you look at the front side, you have here a couple of accessories that have been placed by default. And some of them, maybe let's say the back door here, you may not want that door, but you want maybe a glazed door. But you don't want the standard door that is placed typically. You want the glazed door but rotated. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to insert the accessories, and this is typical to EPLAN and Propanel. We have a list of accessories. Here we can see the doors TS600, and we typically only have one door here. And when we place it, let's say here in the back, you will see that the handle is actually on the wrong side. So if we look at the whole thing from the back, you can see the handle is here on this side. This is not what I want. So let's undo this very quickly. And let's move over to look at the individual door, and I'm going to flip it upside down. So I'm going to flip that 8610-685, but I'm going to put it with right hand side handle. Okay, so what I'm doing is basically I'm using the original. I could take the original directly here from the data portal. So type in the search, type in the part number that I'm interested in. It downloads the door, and you can see the door. Here it is. This is how a typical door looks, but you can see the handle here is on the wrong side. What do we really want to do with this? Well, we want to flip it. So that means basically the bottom and the upside reversed. In other words, the placement area is entirely rotated. So basically, you're going to place it on this side. Boom. The other thing that is not exactly true, when I look at it from the top hand side, now suddenly I flip front and backwards. Well, not really. If you just go here into the device placement area and you rotate it by exactly 180 degrees, you get your glazed door again as you wanted, and it is facing you. This is exactly what you want because you want the front facing you. When you look at it from the top, you want it facing. Anyways, you get the right part in the right direction. Now the only thing left is that handle that actually now suddenly is on the top right hand side in the back, and you want it down here at the bottom because this is your reference point for every accessory that gets placed with the EPLAN Pro panel. So how I'm going to do this is basically just place the handle. Now, one of the problems I see here when I zoom in, I can see that suddenly the handle is really not exactly easy to touch. Well, let's do a small measurement. I go in here, I go to my layout, I have some measuring tools. I can click here exactly from here to here to see what the distance is, and I can recognize here my offset is about 1.5 millimeters exactly, right, from these 2 points. So this is exactly the information I needed. So let's go back to our panel here, and let's now redefine the so-called handle. And I'm going to go right down here, and I'm going to use the so-called offset. And when you're doing the placement offset, you have to figure out what is X, Y, and Z. Remember, the here, the red line represents X, the green line represents Y, and the Z line represents blue. So here, represented by the green is the Y, and I'm going to offset it by exactly 1.5 millimeters. So this way you can see I can target this point that is easier to snap. We got the perfect handle. Now, last but not least, is to figure out, okay, what will be the name of that macro, because I can't use the same macro, I have to use a different macro. So the macro that was originally used was actually saved here under TS8610-685, and I'm going to choose a new name, which is basically the flipped name. Okay, so because I'm flipping it upside down, I just call it flipped. Perfect, cool. So this is basically that macro. The macro is now created in EPLAN, is ready to be used. Now, when I say ready to be used, is I have to go back to my parts management, and inside my parts management, I have to go and look out for that part number 685, because the original door is correct, but has the wrong macro attached to it. So I could, of course, just go about and change the macro now to that flip macro, but then I wouldn't be able to choose between left and right. What I want to do is choose between left and right. So I copied and pasted this macro, and this is going to be here the glazed door with handle on right hand side. Okay, so the only difference is really not the part number that I'm going to order at Rittal, but really the way that I'm going to handle it inside EPLAN. And I'm going to use this new macro that I just created here. If you go by date, you can find it. It's probably at the top or at the bottom, flip. And that's basically the macro that I just created. That is the flip variant of that door. Now, once this is done, remember in EPLAN, the way it works is that every accessory is placed through an accessory list. So I'm going to add this new part number in here so we can see the glazed door, and every accessory or part number is placed based on some accessory placements or these specific reference points. So in these specific reference points, when we look them up here in that Rittal TS door, we had defined a placement for the front and placement for the back side of that same door with exact offsets. But I don't really have to rethink those because I took the door, I flipped around, and I put the handle exactly in the same spot it was originally, just in the flip version, right? So I don't really have to worry about this. This is basically done in the background, and this is what Rittal did for us as work. Now, what remains to do is just go back to my original panel that doesn't have any backside. As you can see, I can see through here. I'm going to add an accessory, new accessory this time, because I added in this Rittal TS 600-800, I added a right-hand side. So it's basically with the handle on the right-hand side. The image is wrong because I didn't flip the image. I didn't really care about that one. But I can still choose front or back. I'm going to choose the variant back because that's where I want it. And I just, boom, place it. You can see it's placed. You can actually see that the handle is on this side. So actually, if I rotate it, it's on the right side exactly of where I wanted it. So this was Roland from EPLAN, giving you a little bit more insights to how we can get these door handles on the American side. Let's call it like that.